The Senate chamber had fallen silent, eerily silent. You could almost hear the hum of the air conditioner, the faint scratch of pens against paper. All eyes were fixed on one corner of the room where Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, better known as X, stood with fire in her eyes. Her voice cut through the silence like a blade. "Maybe that's what a hillbilly logic looks like, Senator," she said sharply, her tone wrapped in sarcasm. A gasp rippled through the room. Reporters shifted forward in their seats, fingers flying over keyboards. Cameras zoomed in. Everyone knew this would make headlines before the hour was over. Senator John Kennedy didn't flinch. He simply adjusted his glasses, leaned back in his chair, and gave a small, knowing smiley, the kind that said he'd weathered storms far worse than this. The room waited. What would he do? Would he lash out, walk away? But Kennedy wasn't too easily rattled. The Louisiana senator, known for his southern wit and homespun humor, looked at Ack for a long moment before speaking. "Congresswoman," he said, his voice calm but firm, "where I come from, being called a hillbilly ain't an insult. It means you work hard, tell the truth, and treat people right even when they don't return the favor." The chamber froze. The words carried weighty, simple, but heavy with truth. Ack's expression flickered for just a second, as surprise, maybe even guilt, but she recovered quickly. "I'm just saying, Senator," she said, "sometimes common sense isn't as common as people claim it to be." Kennedy nodded slowly. "You might be right," he replied, "but I reckon that's why the good Lord gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth to listen twice as much as we talk." Laughter broke the tension, light but genuine. Even a few of ex-colleagues smiled despite themselves. But behind the calm exterior, something deeper was happening. Kennedy wasn't angry, he was disappointed, not for himself, but for what the exchange symbolized. Later that night, as the clip went viral online, America took sides as it always did. Some praised Ack for speaking her mind, others rallied behind Kennedy, admiring his composure. But hidden beneath the political noise was a story that hadn't yet been told, the one that would come to light just days later. The next morning, Kennedy was invited to a local school in Louisiana to speak with students about leadership and integrity. As he walked into the modest gymnasium, he was greeted with applause, not for his politics, but for his dignity in the face of ridicule. A small girl, maybe 12, approached him shyly. She held a small notebook in her hands, the corners dog-eared from use. "Senator Kennedy," she said softly, "I saw what happened on TV. People at my school call me names too because I talk different. My grandma says I sound a country. But when you didn't get mad, it made me feel brave." Kennedy bent down so he was at eye level with her. "Sweetheart," he said gently, "never be ashamed of where you come from. Your roots aren't chains, so they're anchors. They keep you steady when the world gets rough." Her smile was small but radiant. That single moment rippled across the internet once more after a local reporter captured it on video. This time, the story wasn't about insult or mockery, it was about grace. Kennedy's calm response had turned a political clash into a human lesson. Meanwhile, in Washington, Ack watched the clip on her phone in her office. The look on her face was different now, and not fiery, not defensive, but thoughtful. For the first time, she saw the man beyond the headlines. That evening, she sent out a short tweet that shocked many: "Greater than we can disagree passionately, but we can also learn humbly. Respect to Senator Kennedy for showing grace under fire." Within minutes, it trended nationwide. The following week, at a bipartisan youth leadership summit, Ack and Kennedy appeared on the same stage. Reporters expected fireworks. Instead, they got something far rarer. When the moderator asked about civility in politics, Kennedy chuckled. "Well, I learned a long time ago that you can't plant thorns and expect roses to grow," he said. Ack smiled faintly. "And I learned that sometimes the people we think we're fighting are the ones teaching us the most." The audience erupted in applause. The two shook hands, a genuine, unforced gesture that symbolized something much larger than political rivalry. After the event, as Kennedy walked out into the crisp evening air, he looked up at the Capitol dome glowing against the sunset. He thought about that little girl in Louisiana, about the word hillbilly, about how sometimes the harshest words could become the seeds of understanding if you chose not to let them take root in bitterness. He smiled to himself and whispered, Not bad for a hillbilly. And for the first time in a long while, Washington adjusted for that night. I felt a little less divided. Message: true strength isn't in how loudly we answer insult with insult, it's in how quietly we choose grace over pride. Respect doesn't have to be earned by victory. Sometimes, it's earned by humility.